another escalation in the trade dispute between China and Canada. This morning, China announced a preliminary anti-dumping duty on Canadian canola imports. The provisional rate will be set at nearly 76% starting Thursday. It's a fresh escalation in a year-long trade dispute that began with Ottawa imposing tariffs on Chinese EV imports last summer. China is the world's biggest importer of canola and sources nearly all of its supplies of product from Canada. Joining me now to discuss is Guy Saint Jacques, former Canadian ambassador to China. Good morning. As always, great to have you with us. So let's begin with this news regarding China and Canada before we get to what's going on with the U.S. How significant is this move by China? Did we see this coming?
Yes, it was to be expected. In fact, China had said that it would retaliate, and in fact they had mentioned that they could impose 100% tariffs, similar to the 100% tariffs that we impose on electric vehicles. They said also that they would hit our pork export and our seafood export, and this was in direct retaliation to the tariffs that we had imposed on China. I would say on this that, of course, the previous government in Ottawa had done this to align its policy on China with that of Washington, but we didn't get any brownie points. And of course, President Trump is adamant to try to restrict other countries doing trade with China, while himself he is trying to increase exports to China, including soya, that in a way could replace our canola exports.
Well, let's talk about this extended truce between China and the U.S. that was announced by President Trump. Why do you think he did that? What is your sense of where the talks stand?
Well, I think that President Trump didn't have much of a choice, because China is in a very strong position to negotiate with the Americans. Of course, they need the American market for their export. The United States, together with the European Union, are the two main markets for China. 20% of Chinese GDP comes from exports. And when we look at the figure of the second quarter, China managed to increase its exports to the world by 7.5%. Its exports to the USA went down by 23%, but China made a major effort to diversify its trade. It has zero tariff now with 54 African countries, and as a result, exports to Africa have been up 33%. It has been up 19% to ASEAN. They have two cards that they will play to the full extent against the U.S. They control most of the world production of critical minerals and rare earths. Rare earths are used to make heavy magnets that are used in the aeronautical industry, in the car industry, in armament. And therefore, Trump has no choice but to find a way to continue to have access. In exchange, China has been able to get more microchips from the United States, from NVIDIA. This is important for its own development. They also were able to secure ethane, which is a chemical that is used in the petrochemical industry. But add to this the fact that Xi Jinping has invited President Trump to come to China, and they will use this to the full extent to extract other concessions from the United States.
So, Mr. Ambassador, if China is operating from a power position, what about Canada? How do you see Canada's relationship in the trading agreement with the U.S. or the trading negotiations?
Well, of course, we are in a difficult position with the U.S. You know, we're subject now to a tariff of 35%. I think, you know, we are not out of the woods. We will need to renegotiate CUSMA, the North American Free Trade Agreement, next year. I suspect that these will be very tough negotiations. Donald Trump will want to extract more concessions from us. And I think we are at the stage where we have to put in place a very elaborate plan to diversify our exports. In this regard, I think that we have to look at the Chinese market. Yes, it remains a difficult market, but if you had gold exports, last year we exported about $55 billion worth of products, mostly minerals and agri-food products. But China needs also other products in the environmental sector, and I think that as part of our diversification efforts, there is potential there. We have seen that Prime Minister Carney is willing to improve relations. He discussed with Premier Li Qiang of China. The bilateral commission on the economy and trade will meet, I would guess, in the next few months. That will provide a good indication to see how much effort we could put into the Chinese market to try to diversify a little bit from the United States.
Guy Saint Jacques is the former Canadian ambassador to China. Thank you again for your time with us this morning.